My name is Bryan Calhoun from Label Management Systems. We're here at the Artist Factory in Atlanta, Georgia.
Hello, this is Jay Lett. I'm an entertainment attorney here in Atlanta, Georgia, and at the Artist Factory, which is a multi-purpose artist development facility with entertainment lawyers, consultants, booking agents, photographers, choreographers, touring companies. So it's really an all-purpose facility for artists to come and from start to finish get a project prepared and ready to go for market.
Label Management Systems is a company that I founded with Jay in the beginning of 2003, and the purpose of it is to purpose of the company is to facilitate independent labels achieve their goals, and we do that through a number of ways. A lot of it is through the tools that we've developed and the consulting services that we provide. Whether you are a tiny independent company, maybe one person trying to put your own record out, or up to we have clients that have joint venture deals at major labels that have sold millions of records, and kind of everything in between. The majority, or the most of the clients are smaller. And the reason that we really decided to put this company together was we saw a shift in the industry with the ease of recording now, distribution, marketing. It's so much more cost effective that the number we saw years ago that the trend was going to be that there are going to be many more independent record companies rather than fewer. The problem is that most of these companies don't really understand what it takes to get a record into the marketplace, and so over the years with my experience in the industry, and I did street promotions. I was a DJ in the very beginning, but I also did A&R and marketing. I was a product manager, business affairs. I did everything, and had taken the tools and the processes that we use at the various companies and put them all into a cohesive package and a set of kind of instructions that I use and help guide my clients through how they can achieve their goals. Whether it's look, I just want to put my record out and maybe sell it online, or if you're trying to secure distribution through a national distribution company and you've got hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, how do you allocate that money so that you're going to be able to effectively use it to achieve your goals? I had an epiphany one day working at a label, small label. We would do $6 to $10 million of business a year, and we were distributed through a major a large independent distributor, and there were, say, 12 to 14 employees, but it was senior level management as it is for a small company like that. But when we decided to make a commitment to a project, it was substantial. It was a substantial commitment and would have severe consequences if we didn't make money on a project. And even just allocating the funds in the beginning, how it would impact the company's cash flow. Managing your cash flow is essential, and really analyzing what your profitability is essential. The problem is most people don't do it, or do it do a very poor job of doing it. So the story is, I was in a meeting with the president. I had an idea for a compilation record I wanted to put out. I sat down, I gave him the idea. He was like, "Oh, how much do you think you need for licensing?" And we scribbled out some numbers on a piece of paper. And how much do you think you're going to need for marketing? Scribbled out some numbers. And how much do you think you'll be able to sell? With that, he was like, it sounds like a good idea, let's give it a try. And with that, the company committed a couple $100,000 to a project. Now, for a small company like us, that was massive. Now, if we don't make money, and we don't have money in the account or coming in, then we didn't make payroll, and the 12 or 14 of us just didn't get paid. And as I was walking back to my desk, I realized all this, and I was like, there's got to be a better way for us to be able to, do some kind of real analysis on this. And I really started that day with just a basic spreadsheet. And a lot of companies have like a very basic spreadsheet that they use to say, okay, well, if we sell X number of records, what's our copyright liability? And, how much will we make if we sell X number of pieces? But what I wanted to do was develop something that was much more involved than that. And so over the course of the past 3 years, I developed a system which started out as a simple one-page spreadsheet that has now grown into a web-based application that manages multiple projects, really as many projects as you like. It allows you to have as many users using the system as you want. It does detailed cash flow, profitability analysis. You can run multiple scenarios on each project, so you can tell in really great detail how much money you're going to need to commit to a project, when you're going to get paid from your distributor, what your copyright liability is, what your artist royalty liability is going to be, and also when all those things are due, so that you have the ability to manage your cash flow, which was one of our biggest issues, is managing cash flow. It's a web-based application. It means that my clients just go to my website, click a button, type in their username and password, and they're in the system. And I set up each client has their own account. It's on a server that I manage and back up so that the application and all the data is stored and they just access it from anywhere. So one of the advantages of being a web-based application is it gives my clients the ability to log in from anywhere. So we'll do conference calls where we're developing budgets. I'll be in Atlanta. The accountant is in San Francisco, the marketing person is in New Jersey, and the president is in New York. We all log in at the same time, develop a budget for a project, and everybody can see immediately how our actions or their actions are impacted by expenses, sales, moving a street date, and so forth. And you can see all that information immediately, which then gives them the ability to make decisions and make informed decisions. Well, just so you know, the other thing I did is I understand that I understand the problems that independent record labels have. I understand the limited funds, so forth. So I really wanted to build something to help these companies. I really wanted to have something that we could create that they could use that's going to facilitate in putting great music out. I mean, that's kind of maybe altruistic, but I really want to see more great music have a chance. The problem is a lot of companies really don't even have a chance because they make so many mistakes and they really don't know how to manage their budgets. They also don't understand a lot of the other processes that it takes to put records out. But you contact me, I set you up. It's a minimal licensing fee, and you have access to the system 24 hours a day. I didn't learn how to program. I engaged a company called Borzal. They're based in Detroit and New York. Jeff Hogue is the programmer. I give him the credit. I designed the system. I created the look. I knew what I wanted the pages to be. I knew what the formulas needed to be in order to calculate the mechanical royalties and so forth, all the variables that were going into place, and just worked with Jeff on actually developing the system. And he wrote the code to reflect my design. And I worked with people, specialists in various industries or various portions of the industry to make sure that each specific segment of the system, because the system is massive. It's a massive system. We use a SQL Server as a backend, and it's ASP.NET. It's a Microsoft environment. But I wanted to make sure that I incorporated all the things that I needed in order for it to be completely effective and accurate. So I worked with a friend of mine, Ed McGill, who's in the royalty department at Warner Brothers. He helped me with the royalties. Also, Fred Moultrie of Moultrie Accountancy, two fantastic royalty guys, helped us to write all the formulas for the artist, producer, and mechanical royalty computations. I worked with another accountant, Rob Puerto, from Boris Bennick and Associates in New York, and he helped me design the reports and some of the verbiage and so forth. I had a lot of experience, so I used my experience in what I wanted when I was doing marketing or A&R and what I wanted to see. I worked with other people in production departments at various labels, marketing departments at labels, and incorporated all the things from these various departments and just put it all together. It was also really important to make sure that the system was easy to use and it was intuitive as possible, because I recognized that a lot of the people who are starting record labels, they're not finance people, they're music people. And music people need to be able to, I want them to be able to do this, make it quick and easy, get the information that they need, and go back to doing what they really want to do, which is make music. And that's how using everybody's expertise, really everybody came together. And putting all that stuff together gave us the ability to create something I think that is really comprehensive, it's intuitive, and relatively easy to use. As I started doing consulting work for independent record labels, I started realizing that a lot of the questions were the same over and over. So out of necessity, I started putting together some of the things that would speak to the questions that people had consistently, especially small companies. And it all developed into a toolbox now. So it's a set of tools that record labels can use to manage their infrastructure, manage their employees, manage their releases. So it's things like a template designed specifically for writing your marketing plan, specifically for a record. A template for writing your business plan for a record label, specific. Of course, there are millions of business plan templates out there, but something that's very specific to a record company. Template for creating your one sheet. How do you present yourself as a label to a distributor? People don't know what to do, so it outlines all the things that you need to include in your package when you're presenting yourself to a distributor. How do you create your sales projections?
It also provides advice on, from a general perspective, what type of entity should you choose when you form your label. What type of deals might you enter into, either from a distribution perspective or as a label or artist? So there are a couple of informational points that provide in there, along with data input type forms that the clients can use to help to structure their label.
Absolutely, and and to add on to what Jay was saying in terms of information, just basic things that a lot of people, because I've worked in the industry, I used to take for granted that everybody knew how to register your product with BDS. People don't know how to do that. So what I did was also put together all the information. How do you register your product with BDS and Mediabase and R&R and SoundScan and Street Pulse and Media Guide, and how do you get your UPC code? All of those things are together. One of the huge problems that labels have, even the big labels, is maintaining accountability over the people that they employ or the consultants that they hire. So I put together some very specific reports that we use for radio reps and street reps and retail marketing people that are designed so that when they fill those reports out, you're able to get the information that you really need from them and maintain that accountability. So it's a set of a lot of tools that you need on a daily basis to manage your company. And again, Jay as an attorney has some real specific knowledge about some portions of it. I had some specific knowledge, and again, between myself and Jay, we went out and talked to our friends and got information that we needed so that we were able to answer all the questions. So when you are running your company, these tools are the kind of things that you will use on a daily basis. And in addition to those kinds of tools, we also have a set of resources. So it's a list of, I think it's like about 15 pages of various technology providers and websites that help indie labels, that are other tools that you can use for marketing online and monitoring and whatever you need as an independent record company, trade associations,
various conferences.
Yeah, there's a detailed list of all the music conferences that take place around the country and even some internationally, so that you can then go out and seek out additional information on your own. It's a digital download. You just go to the website, put in your credit card number, and it's an electronic book, but but it's dynamic because there are tools that it's not just, PDF where it's going to be, or read-only documents, but there are all of these templates.
Forms, yeah.
There are forms and reports that you're able to, use again and again for each of your projects. There's another one of the important tools is a release schedule checklist. So when you pick your release date, what are the things leading up to the release of your record for the 18 weeks prior to that release date? People don't realize, everybody gets caught up in, oh, we're going to shoot a video or something, but when are you going to ship your POP to the field staff? And when are you going to book your co-op advertising? And when do you have to ship your product to the distribution centers? Those are the kind of issues that if you don't address, your record's not coming out. So a lot of small companies don't realize what a lot of those things are, so we just laid it out for them.
Really, there's a couple of different approaches, but one of the more frequent ways that the facility is used is that you have independent services that any particular artist or perhaps even non-artistic people may require. You have a photographer here, Derek Blanks, who does photography for weddings, but also does it for videos, for artists rather, for their press kits. And he has a partnership with Tony AC, Make It Up. I believe it's Make It Up is the name of her company, and they do makeup for videos, for photography, etc. So you have a couple of different services that can be secured individually, or it can be secured as part of a package, depending on how you need to use it. You have a recording studio like the one that we're sitting in now that is available for rental to the public, and can be booked out at block rates, etc. So there are a couple of different ways that you can use the facility. But then there's also for certain specific acts that Hiram Hicks, who is the proprietor of the facility, he may choose that he wants to develop an act and will bring them in and sign them to an artist development deal, if you will, that he then takes them through the process of grooming, recording, choreography, the whole process, so that they have a completed project that he can then take to a label for potential distribution down the road.
I guess I've always had somewhat of an entrepreneurial spirit.
Try shiesty.
Jay and I got into the business while we were students at the University of Georgia. I guess we were somewhat mavericks in that the two of us and our other partner, Alfred Ponder, we formed a production company, a promotion company. We started throwing parties in college, which I don't think is necessarily all that revolutionary, but while we were students, we started booking national concerts, started booking concerts with national acts. We booked Cypress Hill for their first gig in Atlanta while we were still college students. And so we ended up doing shows with Cypress Hill, Tupac, Brand Nubian, Diggable Planets, and we did all these things while we were in college and the year after college. So we were relatively young, and it was also, I think it was an interesting time in hip hop because we were able to book these acts because nobody else would do it. Everybody was scared, which gave us kind of the ability to get into the marketplace. And so I did that, and Jay ended up going to law school, and kind of because one of us had to go to law school. He was the one.
Story about that.
So Jay went to law school. I was doing street promotions and I was DJing. In fact, that was the other thing too. I started DJing not because I wanted to be a DJ so much, but because we got tired of paying a DJ at our parties. So we're like, one of us has to learn how to DJ. Yep. So that ended up being me, and so from there it grew, and I didn't actually have a job, like a real job, until 5 years after college. I was DJing and I was doing street promotions and independent marketing, and then my first job was doing A&R at Relativity. They hired me, and the first records I A&R'd were the 3-6 Mafia, and so I did their first records with Relativity and Project Pat and Gangsta Boo and the Tear the Club Up Thugs, and then went on to, and I also put the marketing plans together for them and was involved with that, and moved to New York and helped do marketing for Relativity and the other acts. Then I worked at Red Distribution and for a short period of time, and was one of the first employees of a division of Red called Red Urban Music Marketing, which looked to bring in small urban labels that really needed a little bit more information and more guidance in how to navigate through a system like Red, which is a big distribution system, especially for a small company of maybe 2 people who don't have that kind of experience, which also kind of led me to say, you know what, okay, there's something here. And that was one of the areas where one of the times when I started really thinking, you know what, there's a need for something like this and a need for consultants to help these small companies. Then an exciting thing, MC Search from Third Base, he and I became partners, and we did a deal at Warlock Records, and we put out a bunch of records through Warlock, which was really exciting. And we had records that sold, 100 copies, and then records that sold 100,000 copies. And that was a really great hands-on experience, and everything from creating a record, in the studio, signing the contracts, reading through the agreements, going through deal points, going into the studio, recording the records, developing the marketing plans, helping put the co-op plans together, involved in how much are we going to manufacture. I mean, everything, radio promotions and so forth, all the way through the end. And so that experience, coupled with what I had at Relativity and at Red, along the way, I was just like developing and putting together all the information that you need as a whole to run a record company.
Well, I think everyone who wants to be an entrepreneur has to be a creative thinker, first of all, and has to be willing to dream. And I think if you have aspirations and you're willing to think outside the box, trying to find opportunity that may not be not an opportunity that's not being met, I think from an entrepreneurial perspective, then you're going to figure out a way that you can step in and fill that void. And I think that Bryan and I have always been ones that wanted to sit back and think of new ideas, wanted to be involved in new things, never wanted to sit back and feel comfortable that, well, we're doing this and this is fine. We always wanted to think of, well, what's the next thing that we could be doing? What's more interesting to us? What's the new trend in the music business, for example? Making sure that we're up on what's going on in the mobile media space, what's going on the internet. I mentioned before MySpace, which both Bryan and I very early on had MySpace pages. Mine is myspace.com, music in the law.
Mine is myspace.com/musicbusiness. So, yeah, I think Jay, just to kind of follow up on what Jay said, I think, it's important for you to, and no matter what industry it is that you're in, but continually educate yourself. I mean, in addition to, Jay and I are both panelists at conferences pretty regularly and speak, but I go to conferences with my notebook, to learn as well. So, I'm at those conferences where I know that there are going to be people who are leaders in the industry, especially in new technologies and so forth, and mobile especially. That's a massive growth place, and I'm there learning so that I can and Jay can provide information to and provide value to our clients, and incorporate all that into the toolbox, into the financial software application, so that we're going to be able to continually meet the needs of what our clients are. Additionally, one of the like you talk about the attitude, and one of the best pieces of information or best pieces of advice I ever got was from Vernon Slaughter, who's an attorney here at the Artist Factory, entertainment attorney here at the Artist Factory, an old pro, a vet, great guy. He said, if you're going to bet on someone, bet on yourself. And he was really instrumental in, giving me the, I guess the kick in the pants I needed to build the software. When I first started putting it together, and I had a one-page spreadsheet and just an idea, I showed it to him, and he was like, "You've got to build this thing out." And I'm not, the other thing is kind of funny. I don't know if, I didn't realize how big of a job it was going to be in the beginning of it. I mean, it turned out to be a massive undertaking, but I mean, I'm really glad that I put it together. And, obviously Jay's been an invaluable help in putting it all together, but I think that's kind of, that attitude is, Vernon really put it in perspective by saying that, I think. Bet on yourself. Bet on yourself. Jay and I, we've been friends. We're I mean, we're best friends. We're line brothers. We were roommates in college, and so it started off as a friendship, but we also had some mutual goals, and it also, I think, goes to, to respect and respect. I mean, I greatly respect Jay's opinion. It's like people ask me my opinion on stuff, and and I ask Jay his opinion on things, and we talk about how we think the industry is going to change and what do we see as opportunities. And I think it comes to a lot of it is the fact that we respect each other's opinions and have mutual goals. And how do we not hate each other? I don't know. I mean, it's never like that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we've just got an amazing working relationship. I call him. I probably bug him a lot. Sometimes I probably bug him, but he doesn't really let me know it too much.
Well, quite frankly, I know that Bryan would kick my ass if I really if I really did something wrong. But
I think it's hugely important to know who's going to do what role. There are certainly things that both of us have the ability to do for each other. There's things that if I'm not around, Jay could help a client with. But there are definitely things that are very specific about what we do, so that there's you don't want to have a bunch of redundancy. If we're both doing the same thing, then one of us is completely wasting our time. So I think it's important for each of us to know what the other's skill set is, abilities, and how we're going to attack a project. And if Jay is going to handle something, then I know that that's taken care of. I don't even worry about that. If Jay says he's doing something, then I consider it done, and I go on and work on another portion of it, and vice versa. So that just gives us the ability to to be productive. I think if you're both trying to do the same thing, you end up it's counterproductive.
a lot of what makes successful partnerships is being able to feed off of one another, to use the energy that one person has to pick the other person up when that person is either feeling down, not really seeing the vision, being able to feed off of each other when there needs to be that extra push of mental energy or focus, whatever the case may be, to make sure that you're both proceeding in the same direction with a common vision, and then just bringing the best out of one another so that you're able to accomplish things that you otherwise would not accomplish on your own merit. So I think that's what's made Bryan and I work so well together, beyond the fact that we've always been friends, and the friendship is more important than the business in any regard to me. So if we weren't business partners, it wouldn't make a difference to me at all. I want to always consider him my friend, and I think going from that perspective, we know that we'll do what we have to do to make the business work, but ultimately we can always come back and say, hey, you know what, it was a good run. That opportunity didn't work. Let's figure out something else and let's do another one. And that's we've gone through probably about 4 or 5 different businesses, and because we like working together, we're always figuring out, well, let's think of the next thing that we can do together. In terms of making sure that there's an organized approach to every project that you're working on, or whatever your goals are, to make sure that you work at them from a strategic and planned out perspective, then you need to know that one person is handling this, the other person is handling that. Wherever there's crossover, you work in sync to get those things together, but that at all times the project is being pushed forward. And to do that, you really do have to be comfortable with one another's skill set and what each person is going to contribute to any particular project.
One of the biggest places for artists to be able to generate revenue is you've got to look to, especially to the mobile space. Online, of course, is also big in terms of developing communities and then exploiting the content that you've created, and increase your revenue streams. People who just look to the revenue that is generated from record sales, I think, are losing. There's so much money that's made in other sources now. It's just become such a huge part. I think it used to be considered ancillary income. Now it's becoming core income. And you really look to how much money are you going to generate from mobile products? How much money are you going to develop from your fan clubs? And fan clubs are really sophisticated these days. It's not just write a letter in and get a little card. It's, getting ticketing. It's getting special fan experiences. It's merchandising. It's downloading various content from the site that's exclusive for members of the fan clubs. And they're things that people are making millions of dollars a year on, that artists are making millions of dollars a year on. In terms of the mobile products, some artists who have been able to retain rights have the ability to exploit those rights in the mobile space. So for voice tones and ringbacks and wallpapers that that consumers are dying to get, they're able to download these images or other products to their phones. They're billed however they're billed, either through the carrier or PayPal or something else. There's several different billing methods, and then the content creator gets that revenue, and it can really add up to be a lot of money. There was an individual artist, that had sold about 130,000 downloads. Digital downloads of a song at 99 cents. So you're talking about roughly $130,000 of revenue that was generated. Now, the label gets their piece, the artist gets his piece, and the publisher gets their piece, and then the iTunes and the MSNs and the companies that facilitate those transactions, they get their piece. But you're talking about $130,000. Well, that same song sold 600,000 ringtones. Times $3 a piece, that's $1.8 million of gross revenue. So now you're talking about a whole lot more money. So when you start talking about like space and where there is money and where you can generate revenue, I think you really have to look to that space. It's just a lot of money there. It's a lot of money for everybody. It's a lot of money for the carriers. It's a lot of money for the publishers. It's a lot of money for the artists. Just to be on the cutting edge of these new technologies, I think the information is out there. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to get to the bottom of everything, but I had mentioned at another point that it's important to read and to attend conferences. You have to always be a student, and for the mobile space, if you really want to get in on that, you should go to the CTIA Wireless Conference. You should go to the MEDEM conference and the MEDEM Net conference, which precedes MEDEM, where you're going to get all that information and have access to the leaders in the world in that industry. Also, the Future of Music conference, which I think is a phenomenal conference. But those places, you have access to. You can go up and talk to the president of, whatever mobile company or technology provider. You can go and speak to them, and it's just those are really great places to go. And it's funny because sometimes I'll be at a conference and I'm a panelist, but when I go to those conferences, I'm sitting in the crowd with my notebook, feverishly taking notes, and then going up and asking questions later. There's the ringtone, which I think most people are familiar with. So instead of having a ring, you hear a song play, and there's a couple of different ways. You've got the polyphonic tone, which is kind of like a replay of it. Then you've got the master tone, which is the actual song, and it's either the master tone, true tone, or real tone. People kind of use those terms interchangeably. You've got the voice tones, so an individual artist like Ludacris might say, "Hey, this is Ludacris, pick up the phone," and that's what you would hear instead of a ring. You've got the ring backs, so that if I'm the caller and I'm dialing you, instead of hearing a ring, I'm hearing something else. I'm hearing, again, Ludacris saying, "Hey, let me see if I can find your boy. Hold on a second," or the music. And there's a premium that the consumer pays to have all of those products integrated into their whole mobile phone experience. Premium text messaging is another space that's growing really rapidly, and artists are starting to get in on that action as well, so that you can say, text an artist what you think the next single should be, or text an artist what song they should perform at the concert tonight. Those kinds of things. Again, the artist is able to generate revenue from it because there's a premium paid, 99 cents, $1.99, whatever it is, so that the artist shares. The consumer gets to have an experience, maybe directly with the artist. Maybe the artist decides that one of the people that texts in a request, I'll give them a call during the show and bring them onto the stage. So you can do those kinds of things as well, and it gives people, it brings, one of the cool things about all these technologies is it gives the fans the ability to have a closer relationship with the artist, and and broaden their experience with the artist, and just bring them together.
Well, I think and it's kind of almost tried and oversaid nowadays, but you really do need to have a business plan. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go and do financial projections about everything, but you have to have a plan, a focus on how you're going to accomplish whatever your goal is. You need to sit it out, you need to think about it, and you need to put it in writing. Too often, people will just run out the door with an idea, and by the time they get halfway down the street, they realize that they left their shoes back at the house. So you really need to have a little bit more pre-planning, really focus, take some time, get a marching plan, if you will, together, and go after. But then don't be scared to take some opportunities. So it's kind of plan, but don't over-plan. So sometimes you have people that plan so much that they just get scared and they talk themselves out of what otherwise could have been a good idea. So I think what Bryan articulated just a minute ago is that he knew he had an idea for the software, but had he known how much work it was going to take to get it done, he may never have done the project. So sometimes you want to plan to accomplish one goal, and then let that kind of build momentum for you to accomplish what you have down the road.
Bet on yourself, which I'll reiterate that. Bet on yourself. Don't bet on your boss at the time. Bet on yourself, and also be a student. Definitely be a student. There's so much information that is available. Even if you don't have the ability to, fly to Cannes to go to the MIDEM conference, or attend some of these great conferences, there's so much information that's available. The Future of Music conference is held once a year. Those panels are all available as streams online, and you have access to so much information through the internet now and in print, that if you do that and you stay abreast of what the new technologies are and the new developments, ideas that you'll read about, ideas and voids and problems that people have, and you can start seeing some things. And also just get in there and do things, and and don't be afraid to ask questions. I think if you do those kinds of things, then you'll start to develop. You'll start to see where the holes are. You'll start to figure out what you really want to do as well, and just stay abreast of all the current things, and that new technologies and trends, and that'll give you the ability to maintain or continue to be relevant in the industry.